I noticed them without thinking dot at first. They didn't mean anything. Just footprints dot in the mud dot along the trail. I was walking through the forest dot not too deep, dot not too far, dot just enough to be alone. The ground was soft dot wet from earlier rain. Perfect for tracks. I looked down, out of habit dot, and saw them. Boot prints dot, deep dot clear dot fresh dot going. The same direction as me. I didn't think much of it. Someone had been there before. That happens. I kept walking. Step steady dot calm dot dasha. Few minutes later, I saw them again. The same prints dot same pattern dot same depth dot same shape. I slowed down. Looked closer. They were fresh dot, not drying, not fading, pressed into the mud, like they had just been made. I frowned. Then looked ahead dot no one dot no movement dot no sound dot just the trail dot empty. I looked back. Behind me dot my own footprints dot different dot lighter dot different shoes dot not the same. I looked down again dot at the prints in front dot, then said quietly, "Someone's close." The forest didn't respond dot just wind dot leaves dot nothing else. I kept walking. Slower now, more aware, watching the ground dot counting. Steps dot listening dot and then again. The same prints. Exactly. The same dot, same spacing dot same angle. Like they had reset. I stopped dot completely dot because now that didn't make sense. I crouched down, touched one of them. The edge was sharp dot recent dot very recent. I looked ahead again. Still nothing. I stood up dot hard. Steady, but thinking faster now. Then said, "You're not ahead." Because if they were, I would see them. I took a step forward, carefully, placed my foot beside the print. Measured it, slightly larger than mine dot heavier dot deeper dot I took another step, then another, following them. Intentionally dot tracking dot watching dot, and then after a few minutes I saw it again, the same prints. But this time, something was different. I froze dot because now they weren't just in front of me. They were overlapping. I stepped closer, looked carefully. The same boot pattern, pressed into the exact same spot, dot again, dot and again, dot, layered dot like someone had stepped there multiple times. In the same place, I whispered, "That's not walking." The silence held, but the meaning stayed. This wasn't a path. This was repetition. I stood still. Then slowly I turned around. Looked behind me dot my footprints dot normal dot one line. Straight. Then, just beside them, I saw something else dot the same boot prints, running parallel. I froze dot because now that meant something simple. He wasn't ahead. He wasn't behind. He was moving with me. I whispered, "You're here." The forest stayed quiet. But I didn't move dot because now every step mattered. Every sound. Every second. Looked down again dot at the prints dot, then slowly I took a step. And immediately a new print appeared, right next to mine. I froze. Didn't breathe. Didn't move. Because now I knew. I wasn't following him. He wasn't following me dot we were walking. At the same time, I didn't move. Not after that dot, not after seeing it happen. The print, appearing dot at the same time as my step, right beside mine. I stood there dot frozen dot looking down. At the ground dot, at the mud dot, at the two sets of prints dot mine dot and his. I swallowed, then said quietly, "You're right here." The forest didn't respond, but something shifted. Not in sound, not in movement dot in understanding. I stepped back dot slow dot careful. And immediately another print appeared. Matching the movement dot perfect dot I froze again dot because now this wasn't coincidence. This wasn't timing dot. This was synchronization. I whispered, "You're walking with me." The silence held, but the truth settled. I took a step forward dot, and again, the print appeared. Right beside mine dot same depth dot same force dot like weight. Real weight. I stepped again. Faster this time dot and again. It matched dot perfect dot. I stopped suddenly, and nothing appeared. I waited dot seconds dot nothing. I exhaled slowly, because now that confirmed it dot, it only happened. When I moved, I looked around dot slowly dot scanning the trees, the path, the shadows dot nothing dot no. One. No sound dot just me dot and the ground. I crouched down again, looked closely at the print beside mine. Fresh dot deep dot real dot not imagined. I pressed my hand into the mud dot left a mark dot waited dot nothing changed. I stood up again, then said, "You only move when I do." The words felt heavy dot because now this wasn't someone nearby. This was someone matching me. Exactly. I took a slow step, and again it appeared, right beside mine dot same time dot same place. I stepped faster dot then faster again, almost jogging now, and still it matched dot every step dot perfect. I stopped abruptly dot nothing dot silence dot. I turned around, looked behind me, and this time I saw it clearly dot two trails dot side by side, perfectly parallel dot my prints and his dot same spacing dot same rhythm. I whispered, "You're not behind me," then paused. "You're with me." The realization hit harder than before, because now distance didn't matter. Direction didn't matter. He wasn't approaching. He was already there. I took a step sideways, off the trail, into thicker mud dot, and again, the second print appeared. Right beside mine dot closer now dot too close. I stepped back quickly, then forward again dot testing dot breaking. Rhythm dot changing pace. But nothing changed dot. It matched everything dot perfectly dot. I whispered, "I can't shake you." The forest stayed quiet, but something else changed dot, subtle dot easy to miss. The distance between the prints was getting smaller. I froze dot, because now that meant something worse. He wasn't just walking with me. He was getting closer. I stepped again dot carefully dot and looked down. The second print was slightly nearer to mine. I stepped again dot closer dot again dot closer dot. I stopped completely, because now there wasn't much space left. I whispered, "How close are you?" The silence held, but I didn't need an answer, because I could see it, right there dot in the mud dot, almost touching. And if I took one more step, there wouldn't be space for two sets anymore. I didn't take the next step, not after seeing that dot, because now there wasn't room anymore. I stood there, looking down dot at the ground dot at the mud dot at the prints, mine and his, almost touching dot too close. I whispered, "There's no space left." The forest didn't respond, but the meaning stayed. If I moved, we would overlap dot completely. I stayed still, trying to think, trying to understand what would happen. I looked behind me. Two lines of prints, perfectly parallel, then gradually getting closer, near the end almost, merging. I turned forward again, looked at my feet, then said quietly, "If I move, you move." The silence held, but that rule was already proven. I took a breath dot slow dot careful dot, then lifted my foot, just slightly. Didn't step, just raised it, and waited dot nothing appeared. I lowered it again, still nothing. I nodded slightly, because now that meant something dot. It wasn't about movement dot, it was about steps. Contact dot pressure dot. I swallowed. Then slowly, I shifted my weight forward, not a full step, just enough to almost commit. And in that moment, a viet print appeared dot closer than before dot, almost overlapping. I froze, because now that confirmed it dot. It didn't need a full step, just the intention. I pulled back immediately dot, heart beating faster now, because that changed everything. I whispered, "You don't need me to finish it." The silence held, but the truth deepened dot. It wasn't copying me dot, it was predicting me, matching before I completed it. I stepped back suddenly dot, breaking rhythm dot, and for the first time it didn't match instantly. A slight delay, just a fraction. I froze dot because now there was something. A gap. I stepped back again. Faster this time. And again a delay dot small dot, but real. I turned. Started moving faster dot almost running now. Trying to break it. Trying to distinct dot my steps uneven dot irregular dot unpredictable dot, and for a moment it worked. The prince fell slightly behind. I felt it. That distance. Returning. I didn't stop. Kept moving. Faster. Breathing harder now. Branches. Hitting my arms. Leaves under my feet. Then I stumbled dot just slightly. A root dot my balance shifted dot my step corrected. And in that moment, it matched again dot perfect dot closer than before. I stopped instantly, breathing hard. Looking down dot now. There was no space at all dot the prints were overlapping dot one on top of the other dot impossible to separate. I whispered, "You caught up." The silence held, but I felt it dot not in the ground. Not in the air dot closer dot much closer. I slowly raised my head, looked forward, then very slowly looked down again dot, and for a moment I thought I saw something else dot not just the print. A shift. A second weight dot not visible, but present. Standing exactly where I was. I didn't move. Because now there was only one question left. If there was only space for one set of footprints, which one was mine? I didn't move. Not after that dot, because now movement meant choosing. And I wasn't sure which one was me. I stood there, looking down dot at the prints, or what was left of them dot no. Separation dot no distance. Just one set dot deep dot clear dot complete dot. I whispered, "Which one is mine?" The forest didn't respond, but something else did. Not a sound, not movement. A shift dot in how it felt. I lifted my foot dot slowly dot carefully dot, and for a moment I hesitated dot because now I didn't know what I was stepping from or into. I placed it down dot, gently dot, and watched. A print appeared, but not beside, not separate dot inside dot exactly where my foot landed. Perfect alignment. I froze dot because now there was no difference dot, no second set dot, no other. Just one. And I didn't know if I had matched it or it had replaced me. I whispered, "You're not next to me anymore." The silence held, but the truth settled. It didn't need to be dot, it had caught up dot completely dot. I took another step, and again, the same thing. One, print dot perfect dot, no variation dot, no second presence. Just one. I looked behind me dot the trail. One line of footprints, not two. Never. Two. I froze dot because now that meant something worse. There had never been two. Not really, I whispered. I've been following. The words felt wrong, but they stayed, because now it looked like I had been walking in someone else's steps dot perfectly dot from the beginning. I shook my head slightly, trying to reject it, trying to find anything that proved otherwise. But the ground didn't lie dot one set dot consistent dot unbroken dot. I looked down again dot at the fresh print dot, then slowly I turned my foot. Just slightly changed the angle. Something small. Something intentional dot, then step dot, and watch dot the print appear dot same angle dot same shape dot, not mine. I froze dot because now that meant something final dot. It wasn't copying me. I was copying it. I whispered, "You're leading." The silence held, but the realization deepened dot. Every step had already been placed. I was just fitting into them. I stepped again, slower this time dot, more aware dot, and once again the same print dot, same depth dot, perfect dot. I stopped because now there was nothing left to test. I wasn't being followed. I wasn't being matched. I wasn't even being chased. I was walking a path that already existed. I looked up dot at the forest, dot at the path ahead dot, and for the first time, I noticed something I hadn't before. The trail wasn't random. It was precise, like it had been used dot again dot and again. And again. I whispered, How many times? The silence didn't respond, but I didn't need it to, because now I understood something worse. If I stopped, the prints would still be there, waiting for the next step, whether I took it or someone else did. I stood still. Then slowly I asked, what happens if I don't follow? The question lingered, because now this wasn't about escape. It was about whether I had ever been choosing at all. I didn't take the next step. Not after that, because now I didn't trust the ground anymore. I stood there, looking down at the print. Perfect. Too. Perfect. Not mine. I knew that now. I slowly stepped off the trail, into the leaves, onto ground that hadn't been touched. No mud. No marks. No path. I exhaled. Because now this was different. This was mine. I took another step. Carefully. Then another. No prints. No pattern. Just movement. Free. I nodded slightly, because now I had left it. Whatever that trail was, it wasn't following me anymore. I turned back, looked at the path. One line of footprints, still there. Waiting. But not moving. I whispered, "You stay there." And for the first time, it felt true. I turned away, started walking deeper into the forest. Off the trail, through branches, over roots. Away. Every step uneven. Unpredictable. Mine. I kept going. Didn't look back, didn't stop. Just moved until I heard it. A step behind me. I froze. Slowly. Very slowly. I looked down. At the ground. Leaves. Dry. No prints. Nothing. I whispered, "No." Then another step. Closer. I didn't turn. Didn't move. Just listen. Because now this was different. This wasn't the trail. This wasn't the pattern. This was real. I swallowed. Then slowly I stepped forward. And behind me, a step followed. Not in the ground. In the sound. In the air. Perfect timing. Perfect distance. I stopped. The step stopped. I stepped again. It followed. Exactly. I whispered, "You're still here." The forest stayed silent, but the truth settled. I hadn't left it. I had just changed how it followed. I turned suddenly. Fast. Expecting anything. A person, a shape, movement. But there was nothing. Just trees. Still. Empty. I stood there, breathing heavier now. Because now that was worse. On the trail, it had rules. Here it didn't. I whispered, "Where are you?" No answer. Of course. Then slowly, I looked down. At the ground. And for a moment, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed it. A single print. Not ahead. Not behind. Exactly where I was about to step. I froze. Because now that meant something final. It wasn't behind me. It wasn't following. It wasn't even walking with me anymore. It was already there, where I was going. I stepped back. The print stayed. I stepped to the side. Another print appeared. "Waiting," I whispered. "You're not tracking me." Then paused. "You're placing me." The silence held, but I understood. Every step I took was already decided, already marked, already waiting. I looked around. The forest felt different now. Not empty. Not full. Just set. Like everything had already happened, and I was catching up. I stood there. Not moving, because now there was only one way to know. I lifted my foot. Slowly. Then I didn't place it forward. I stepped backward. Away. Off the line. Off the direction. Off whatever it wanted. And for the first time, nothing appeared. No print. No sound. No step. I froze, because now that meant something. I whispered, "You didn't expect that." The forest stayed silent, but something shifted. Subtle. Uncertain. I stepped again. Sideways. Random. Unplanned. And again. Nothing. I nodded slowly, because now I understood. It didn't follow me. It followed the path, and I had stepped off it. I turned away, walked deeper into the forest. Without direction, without pattern, without rhythm. And this time, nothing followed. No steps. No prints. No sound. Just silence. I didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept walking, because now I knew one thing. As long as I didn't follow, it couldn't reach me. And somewhere behind on that trail, the footprints were still there. Waiting. For someone who would walk them again.